All right, guys, somebody asked me yesterday why I use a 15-foot line to train these dogs instead of the standard 6-foot line. Here's the thing. While I'm training, I need to start adding some distance away from the dog when we're proofing the basics, okay? So I don't stay with the 15-foot line very long. I quickly move to a 50-foot line like this one. So I'm 50 feet away from her. And then quickly after that, I'm gonna move to a 100-foot line, okay? Most people that I encounter, seminars, board and trains, private lessons, whatever, think their dog's obedience is much better than it is. And the second they get away from the home, they fail miserably. They can't do anything in the real world. They can't do anything when there's distractions around because they're not proofing the behaviors they think the dog knows. So you have to be able to add more duration to the commands, and you have to be able to add more distance. So once I start adding more distance, and I'll start with the 15-foot line, I start running past the dog like I'm leaving. They're going to break it. They're going to fail. I want them to make the mistake. I'm not going to hammer them for that. They don't know it. It's my job to teach it. I'm going to take a ball. I'm going to roll it past them. They're going to break and they're going to fail. They think that's what they're supposed to do. It's my job to mark that with the no immediately, just like we have to mark a behavior we like with the yes or the clicker or whatever you use to reward immediately with the behavior you want. It's the same thing with the behavior you don't want. But unfortunately, most dogs think their middle name is no, because people use it constantly for things they don't like, but they never show the dog what no means. So it has no meaning, right? So if she keeps breaking these commands, I'm just gonna say no, walk down the line, give her a little leash pop and put her back. And it doesn't have to be much, but I have to let her know that's the wrong answer. Another thing a lot of people do these days, I'm not a big fan of, but it's just my opinion, they like to use the e-collar to correct that. I don't do that. I don't proof these things with the e-collar, not even close. I want it to be personal. I want it to come from me, from the leash. That's it. We're in front of my house because a lot of people walk by, dogs walk by, and it's good practice for her, and she's going to fail. But the more mistakes she makes, the more I can show her, no, little lady, wrong answer. This is what I need you to do. Okay, she's only 6 months old. She's a baby, but she's doing really, really well. So before I take her outside the dog park and a busy park and busy places, I need to perfect those things here as much as I can. And then when I take her to the most extreme places for her with the biggest distractions, then when she fails, she knows the answer when I tell her no. It makes sense to her, and it'll be so easy to bomb-proof that, okay? Now, I know people, especially dog trainers, love going to Lowe's and to Home Depot to work their dogs. And listen, if that's what you're into, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I just very rarely do that unless there's a specific reason, because to be honest with you guys, it's not a very distracting place to work your dogs, right? It really isn't. You'd be much better off being on your own property, implementing, throwing food, throwing balls, having your family run past, using your other dogs. That's more difficult than walking around doing basic obedience in Lowe's or Home Depot. But again, that's just my opinion. And again, I am not going to correct these unwanted behaviors with the e-collar. I save that for very specific behaviors when the dog is off leash to provide safety and freedom. That's it. You got to proof the basic, guys. That means you got to start adding more duration and more distance. That's why I use the long lines. That's why I proof things here before we go out into the real world, okay?